and people fight over the pronunciation of her name, Kamala. Yo, it was neither. It was Kamala, right? That's how you say her name, yo. Kamala, right? Friday. You remember Friday? Um, fucking Michael Blackson, right?
Yeah.
He played that character. It's like, what is this shit? I can't get jiggy with this shit. Oh, I'm just a bitch ass nigga. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yo,
Not really,
yo,
but
and my bad. What the fuck is this guy taking a picture of?
Yo, what's up, Ed?
What up, Zoo? How
What's
you
good?
feeling?
Chilling. How are
Everything good?
you?
I'm alright. I'm alright. Um, just chilling in the crib.
You got
So
something for us?
yeah, um, I got the. You see the Obama clip where he's trying to encourage black men to get out and vote for Kamala.
Nah.
All right, well, let's take a look, see what the brother Obama has to say.
Okay, let's do it.
I'm going to go ahead and just speak some truths, if you don't mind. Yes. Because my understanding, based on reports I'm getting from campaigns and communities, is that um, we have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. Now, I also want to say that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all directly and say,
First off, I, I'm going to admit something right here. I don't always feel comfortable.
Exclusive.
I don't always feel comfortable talking to black men as a group and saying, you know, the brothers. And I mean, I'll just be perfectly frank. You know, as a half African, half Caucasian individual, as I am, and as Obama is, um, I recognize that there's a different lineage that I hail from than that of African American individuals, right?
Right.
So I tread lightly when I throw around the term brother. I mean, Zoo, you're my brother. I consider you my brother, and I have, you know, but there's something about the way Obama said it right there that just it didn't feel right to me. And
Yeah.
and I would step out on a limb and to speak for African American men from across this great nation and say something just didn't feel right about him saying it right there. Even my man right here. Look at his face. Look at my man right here. You think they're embracing that Obama brother? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's looking at him like, yo, you half honky motherfucker. Look at it. Look at
But
him.
also, I think you're bringing up a wider issue in the sense that, I don't know if a lot of people know this, especially outside of America, but in America, there's kind of a a big difference between Black Americans and African Americans. Like a lot of them don't like each other. Obviously I don't know, I'm not speaking
When you
from
say African Americans, are you talking about Americans who are from Africa?
yeah,
Like
your father is from Africa,
yeah,
right?
but there's a whole nother layer to that when you start talking about biracial people. If
Right.
you have, right? So me being
But
biracial,
when I say African American, I don't mean black. I mean literally African American. Whether you have some lineage to like we
are you
talked
talking
about
about
this a
like
little
you talking
before.
about like Elon Musk, African American?
I guess, but yeah, but we're talking about the darker shade of
Okay.
of Africa. But like I mean, like okay, if you or your parents, let's say you or your parents, right,
Okay.
have grown up in Africa, right, and are
Right.
now living in America.
Yeah.
I, as a white boy, would consider you an African American, right? Whereas a lot of black people in America do not have that. They have no first or second generation tie
Yeah.
to
Yeah. It
Africa.
goes back way further. Yeah.
Right.
It's explained.
But there's a big difference, at least from what I understand, between those two cultures, first of all, because if you're first or second generation African, even if it's half, right, then I think you carry the culture of that African country with you into America.
Yeah.
Whereas black Americans
And it is a distinct
have a
difference.
different
Yeah.
experience. You see
Yeah.
what I mean? And so I
100%.
think you're right in the sense that brothers and sisters. I mean, first of all, I'm surprised he's still using that brother and sister because it's so corny and played out. I thought he was cooler than that. But for me, I would rather that he like
No, it's not. It's not
I
played.
would
It's
rather
not
he
even played out.
recognize that,
It's not even played out. It's not even played out because for a person of American heritage who is black, right,
Yeah.
to say brother, right, it's not played out, right? For him to take on that, there is a little bit of chameleon going on. And I can identify it to an extent, which is why, you know, I tread lightly in these areas
Like
because
code switching, you mean?
yes, right? It's a very Kamala esque, right?
Yeah, she does it. Yeah.
Where now, through his political career, his identity as a black man has served him. So
Right.
he has embraced it. But you think when this dude was going by the name Barry Soetoro, right? Right? When he was living in the Philippines or when he was, a young man applying to Harvard or probably applying to Harvard, he embraced it. But you think that it's always played in his interest. And even if it hasn't, he's always had the option to lean into that Caucasian influence
Yeah.
to set himself apart from all the other brothers in the room. You feel me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a real thing,
But
right?
I think that also helped him get a lot of the white vote because he was more approachable
Yeah,
because he
yeah, yeah.
has half of that.
Exactly. So that can't be ignored, and I can fully identify with that and recognize that in my own life because you know, I mean, fuck, I played hockey, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I can code switch if I need to. I can lean into that side of my upbringing and that influence if I need to, just to relate. Maybe not on maybe a white person sees me 100%. They see the melanin in my skin, you know, to the extent that it's there, and they recognize my otherness, right? Immediately, obviously, but in conversation, and you know, it's you know. it's something that is always in my toolkit that I
Yeah.
can whip out. You know what I mean? And he has that same thing. You know what I mean? On the other hand, right, what he is masterful at is having that other tool of leaning into his blackness when it serves him. You know what I mean? And this is a phenomenon in the political theater in this country based on our history that you've seen over and over again with, you know, on many levels, right? You have the Kamala Harris thing where it's like I'm black when it's convenient for me, I'm Indian when it's convenient for me. You have the Obama thing where it's like I can identify with black people based on my, you know, he's not African American in any way. His father is Kenyan. His mother is white. He was raised by his mother, right? And his grandparents. His mother, his stepfather was Singaporean or something like that, right? So yeah, I think he lived in Singapore. I think I said Philippines. I was wrong.
No, it was no, I went to the high school he went to. It was
Oh,
Indo-
Hawaii.
Indonesia.
Oh, right. Okay, there you go. But so, and there was a time in his life where people called him Barry, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When did you decide consciously to be Barack? It's like if I decided suddenly, like, all right, I want people to call me Pilani, right?
Yeah.
Because that's my African name, right? It's like instead of, Edwin or Lonnie, right? Which are all names that I've been called, you know what I mean, at different phases in my life. It's a certain, it's a type of identity shuffling that is very unique to biracial people, especially if you have African, if you're half African, half, this is a very unique person right here, right?
Yeah,
That I,
but not really though, because from what I understand, code switching is a survival mechanism. Like that's how you have to live.
yeah, no, but it's a different type of code switching. Like, so a black person can drop their, their lingo to sound more appeasing to white people. A white person can drop their lingo to sound more appeasing to black people, right? Latino people could do the same thing, right? Um, but what he's able to do is different. You know what I mean? He is like, you know, it's like if code switching was using the force, this dude is a Jedi. You know what I'm saying? Right? You feel me? You know what I mean? So, but anyway, we're getting stuck on this one point, but it came to me like because like even when I text, right, like I'm like, yo, what's up, brother, right?
Yeah.
Am I typing it am I typing it A, right? Am I typing bro? Does bro sound too white? Nah, not bro. So I'm just like, yo, what up, man? Yeah, like I don't even use that shit. I don't use it because it is so, it's so, you know, like I just can't help but like hearing the bullshit oozing out of my own mouth. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm not touching that. But other people do it. Like they do it because it's like one of those things that just gets you in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I encounter a black person on the street, you know what I mean, like a brother, you know what I mean, I'm like, yo, what up, brother? You know what I mean? And I immediately I'm ingratiated by using that term, and it's a weapon. You know what I mean? And I
Mhm.
don't like, you know, I don't like, going there. You know what I mean? It's just something feels like icky about it because at the same time I recognize that there's a fundamental, you know, culture. It's code switching, and I just don't fuck with it. You know what I mean? But anyway,
Yeah, I just have to point out that like it's so crazy to live in France coming from growing up in America because here honestly race is not an issue. Like it's really not. There's some racism, but it's against Muslim people,
yeah,
but it's not nearly to the scale of America. Like even with Muslim people, like it's like it's not. It's more about I think the immigration issue of like there's
Yeah, I
too
mean,
many,
well, what if you put it like this? Would this be accurate? Race is always an issue, but in different ways depending on where you're at on the planet, right?
No, honestly, and again, I'm just speaking from my experience, but I've surrounded myself by black people, not intentionally, it's just how it is. But
yeah,
even here,
you're a black white person.
yeah, whatever. But even here, like I have a lot of, anyway, I'm not gonna say that. But the point is that it's truly not an issue. Like you
I
can
mean,
ask.
yo, bro, like um,
I mean, it is, but I don't know.
I
Just
mean, like, all right, of
that's not
no, I
true
mean,
because police. There is a joke here that police target black people more than white people. Like,
yeah,
but
yeah,
still,
because race is still an issue. It's just
yeah,
it's more pronounced here in different ways, right?
yeah,
And it's a different it's different. The chemistry is different in that society. There's different influences. You have the Muslim influence that takes a little bit of heat off of the black people. But like,
yeah.
go back like 4 years. I guarantee you, being a black man in France was rough, rugged, and raw. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
Honestly, no. I mean,
there
I
was
can't.
probably like all right. You know who Paul Robeson is?
No.
All right. So this dude traveled to Russia back in the day, right? He was basically an actor, athlete. I think he was like a Renaissance man. Like he was just like a supremely talented individual. And I couldn't give like a biography of his life and accomplishments if I tried, but I do somewhere have a book. It's probably at my ex's place, but I had a fucking book about his life, and I did dive deep into it at a time. I'm talking like over a decade ago, and the dude decided to relocate to Russia because you know the way he saw it, it was just like being free of like the racial prejudices of
Yeah.
in all places, going to Moscow. You know what I mean?
Actually, I remember what it is about France is that it comes back to the N word, right? Because here the N word is not. It's not a thing. Like
Yeah.
no, they don't understand the connotation, and I think that's the difference in America. Why it's still such a big issue with everyone is because of the American slave trade or whatever,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so they
No,
didn't
no,
have that here.
no. Yeah,
So
no, it's ill. The N word is an interesting topic because it's like it's a cultural phenomenon in this country,
yeah,
but and it gets used in other parts of the world because it's so heavily used here by black people. So like the
but they
class.
don't understand the connotation of it outside of
Right. So they say it like, yeah, it doesn't have the same weight.
right.
Like
It means
remember
nothing to
Friday? You remember Friday? Um fucking Michael Blackson, right?
yeah.
Where he played that character. It's like, what is this shit? I can't get jiggy with this shit. Oh, I'm just a bitch ass nigga. You remember that?
Yeah,
Yo,
not really,
yo.
but
Oh
Friday
my,
one.
no, it was like it was the one Friday, but
Uh,
whatever, yo. But yo,
Everything after Friday one is garbage. Come on,
yo,
for
no,
real?
that's they're all fucking fire, yo.
Oh, I
All
didn't.
the Friday movies are fucking hilarious.
What do you mean all? I thought there was only two.
There's like
Friday after
three of them.
next. Oh, there's
Yeah,
next Friday and Friday
Next
after
Friday,
next.
Friday after next. They're all fucking hilarious.
Okay.
The one, because once you got oh, what's his name? Chris Tucker was in the first one, but then
Yeah.
what's the dude? Oh, what's his name? Um, fuck. But the dude that replaced Chris Tucker was like just as funny, yo.
Oh, I don't know. I don't
You know what I
remember.
mean?
It's crazy
Yeah.
because I try to watch Friday now, and I'm like, this is garbage. Why did I watch this?
Are
Why
you
did I
kidding
love
me? I can still watch Friday. It's hilarious.
Nah.
It's fucking hilarious.
Wait,
Top flight security of the world, Craig.
You know,
that when you have a choice that is this clear,
It's clear.
when on the one hand you have somebody who
Somebody.
grew up like you, knows you,
What? Wait, who are you talking about?
grew up like you and knows you.
Kamala?
I guess.
She grew up in like Montreal or something like that. What? She's Indian. I mean, I love Indian food, but
What is her actual? What are her parents?
yo, nobody knows. So
Nobody
her
knows.
grandmother is white. Her grandfather is black.
Black
Her
what?
father,
Black
her father
American.
is like half black, half white, or half black, half Indian, something like that. Then she has Caribbean, black, and Indian. Her mother, though, who is her primary guardian, right? So, like, this is the thing, right? This is another thing. It's like you could be mixed race. Who raised you, yo? Like, I'll say this, right? My mother had more influence in my upbringing than my father. You know, what I mean, my father was always there, right, and definitely had a lot of influence. But you know, I think it's normally true that your mama is gonna have more influence in your upbringing than your father when it comes down to certain things, right? Um, you know, I have a lot of like mannerisms from my father, a lot of and he definitely tried to drop wisdom on me, whatnot. But my mother's a white lady, and there's no escaping that. I mean, your mother is always, going to have her hand in the mix, unless she's just completely absent from your life. So in Obama's case, his mother is white, like mine is, right? So that influence is always going to be there, as much as he tries to swerve away from it, right? Kamala's mother was Indian, like Indian, like red dot, like 100%. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And people fight over the pronunciation of her name, Kamala. Yo, it was neither. It was Kamala, right? That's how you say her name, yo. Kamala, right? Yo, like so, like that's her upbringing, yo. You know what I mean? And that maternal influence is always going to be strong. You know what I mean? If you have a white kid raised by a black woman, I don't give a fuck. That kid is more black than me. You know? There's
Yeah,
no
that's
getting around it. There's no getting around it. But you have a black kid raised by a white father. That kid is
yo.
white.
There was a dope episode of, I think it was Atlanta. Did you see that one where the babysitter was Caribbean, Trinidadian or something? And
The little white kid was talking Trinidadian.
yeah, but not only that, like he was basically raised by her, and she distilled her culture into raising him, and he identified more with that. Like that was his culture because he was raised by her,
Yeah,
whereas he had nothing in common with the white culture because the parents were not there. They were working and didn't raise the kid. um
word.
but yeah, it's just it's
I mean
it
that's real. I mean, like
your
that's
point.
that's
That's
common.
your
I
point.
mean, how many of we have a dual language program at my school, and uh, most of the kids, a lot of the kids in those classes are white. I'm talking about like as white as you could be, right? And they all have Spanish nannies who speak to them Spanish because the parents want them to learn Spanish so that they can get them into this program. It's like a little enclave for rich, economically well off white families where they can put their kids with other well-off white families, and then there would be like it would be white kids from the most affluent neighborhoods on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, mixed with recent immigrants, like first generation, sometimes coming in not speaking no English. And these kids come out of this public school, 5th grade, speaking 2 languages because they all have nannies that speak Spanish, and they have classmates that speak Spanish. And it's the most interesting thing because it's like, these parents want nothing more than to avoid the project kids, right? So what they do is they put their kids in the dual language program because that program is made to serve English language learners, right? Kids that come in speaking no English and are learning during their elementary years. And then it's kind of been taken over by all of these white families from Riverside Drive, West End Avenue, Central Park West. I mean, people with lots of money that could put their kids in private school, and a lot of times end up putting their kids in private school later. But these kids get like the illest education socially because they're in school with all these like rough project kids. They're in school with all these immigrant kids that don't speak no English. They learn Spanish. They learn how to deal with the rough kids from the projects who, come into school an hour late every day, and but it's a crazy fucking thing. It's like the way that they use the public education system through this little dual language program is amazing. It's like segregation in the most savvy, slickest way that you can imagine.
Who are you saying they use, like the
These wealthy white families that put their little kids into this program.
But I think the school is aware of what's happening, and it's not
Yeah,
necessarily
but it's a loophole. It's a loophole, right?
It's not a bad thing, though, what you're describing. Is it?
The only thing is that let a family from the projects that wants their kids to learn Spanish try to get their kid into the program. No, ain't happening.
So the school won't
if
accept.
If you don't speak Spanish at home, they ain't letting you in. But for some reason, these white families, neither of the parents speak Spanish. They might have taken some Spanish classes in school or whatever, but they ain't Spanish.
So you have to apply to get in, and they can refuse.
You don't have to apply, but you have to request it, and then you have to fill out a questionnaire, and then they place you in that class. They can place you in any class. They can't turn you away. But there's the Gen Ed class where all the Black and Dominican kids go, or Black, Puerto Rican, all the kids that, if you're Spanish, even if your parents speak Spanish, but if you're multi-generation in this country, you're going in Gen Ed. If you're from the projects, if you're lower economic, you're going into Gen Ed. If you are higher economic, you're going into dual language, right?
But if you're lower economic and you request dual language, will they turn you away?
If you don't speak Spanish in the house, yeah.
Okay.
But none of these white families speak Spanish in the house.
But the nanny does, so that counts.
No, it doesn't count, bro.
But clearly
it doesn't count. No. I don't. I've been trying to figure this out as long as I've been working in this school. No,
but you're saying they're in the dual language, so it counts. In the eyes of the school, it counts because they're being accepted into dual language.
So no, it's not. It is not accepted. They're being placed.
Right. So for them,
those decisions these are very proactive parents who are very up in the principal's face, and and they ingratiate themselves with the principal and the vice principal very early on. They come to the kindergarten tours. And it's like a word of mouth thing. So most of the kids in the projects don't even know to request, And then on top of it, to be fair, the fact that they have a nanny, the fact that the parents are very supportive of their education and their dual language education makes it so that these kids do better because they have more resources supporting them learning Spanish. So they may not be fluent in Spanish, but they're like conversational by the time they're in fifth grade,
Okay.
And
Yo,
whatever.
Let me ask you a question. You remember when we were growing up how dangerous public schools were?
Yeah.
Is it like that now? I know you're in a good neighborhood, but even still, when we were growing up in good neighborhoods, like I was on 75th Street, the 77th Street school was dangerous as fuck.
On the east side?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you consider dangerous?
Stabbings, shootings. You don't remember that shit?
Yeah, I mean,
From
it's
kids.
not like that. No. I mean, some of them are. There's plenty of schools that have all kinds of drama.
But not yet.
Especially in high school. In high school, it's a whole different world. But elementary is you have certain families that just don't give a fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they are not
So the kid
doing.
will cause trouble, and they don't
Not
get in
even. I
trouble.
mean, not always even trouble. It's really like heartbreaking to be real with you. We have a kid that comes in an hour late every day, and he smells like cat or dog urine half the time. His clothes are always dirty. He comes in without a coat when it's cold outside. We've given him like numerous coats. Like he got two coats this past week because he came in with no coat. And I think the parents are just like, yo, you're gonna get a new coat today. I'm sending you with a coat,
Yeah.
And he's a smart kid. He does really well. He self-regulates. He can sit there, pay attention. But the thing is, because of his situation, they put him in the most fucked up class. You know what I mean? If he was in the dual language class, or if he was in another class that had, they break it down. They have all the problem kids by first grade. All the problem kids are in their class. It's not like they used to call it BOCES. They used to call it special ed. All this, but no, these kids just don't listen. They don't behave. They don't fucking get with the program. They're disruptive. They after kindergarten, they separate these kids out and they throw them to the weakest teachers. You know what I mean? And I mean, not even the weakest teachers, the most like, because there's all kinds of other politics going on too, where it's like the least favored teachers. Let me say it like that, right? And they segregate it out like that, and now they have different programs. Now there's like the prevalence of autism and special needs and neurodivergence and all this other shit. So they have other programs in the school to accommodate those kids. And a lot of these kids, their parents work at Columbia, their parents are doctors, lawyers, all this, but the kid is autistic, very intelligent, but socially awkward or just off a little bit. They have a class for those kids. But if you are from the projects, again, you could have the same issues going on, but because you don't have the same support and the same advocacy from your family, from your parents, from the household, you're not going to be put in that program. You're not going to even be evaluated to be put in that program. You know what I mean? So
we should do a separate video on education, because the fact that you're an educator is interesting, and I think people want to know about the New York situation. Like are there school shootings in New York? No, right?
I mean there are, but not like that. Not
There
like the
are
ones.
though?
in high school, yeah, you have all that shit going down.
But not mass shootings. They're like
No.
they shot one person.
It's like, yeah, it's like
one person shoots another.
Yeah, I mean, we had a
Mass
first
shootings
grader.
because New York is
No. We had a first grader who made a threat, like, I'm going to bring in a gun and shoot up the whole school.
Yeah.
This kid is also in my class. And I know that's just him talking bullshit. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. You know? And that's not happening. You know what I mean? But they dealt with it like,
But it is happening outside of U.S. Not U.S., outside of New York.
Yeah. In other states, it's a problem. Like we don't have access to guns like that here.
What? New York?
No, like where kids are gonna get their hands on their father's gun and bring it into school. No, you know what I mean? People with guns. Like for instance, I have a kid who has his father lives in PA. Guns are legal in PA. So he goes to visit his pops, comes back on Monday talking about, I held a gun over the weekend. That wouldn't happen in New York the same way, because if his step pops lived in New York and his kid comes to school talking about, I held a gun over the weekend, that father's going to jail.
Yeah.
But in PA, gun ownership is legal. So yeah, he legally held a gun.
It's not legal in New York?
Not like that, nah.
I mean, only if you have a carry permit, and that's exceptional.
Yeah, it's very hard to get one.
Okay. All right. Anyway, let's get back to it.
All right, back to Obama.
Yeah.
All right, hold on.
Went to college with you. Understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences. Who's had to work harder and do more. And
my bad. What the fuck is this guy taking a picture of? Yeah, he's looking at the floor. All right, anyway.
Overcome and achieves the second highest office in the land, and is putting forward concrete proposals to directly address the things that are vital in our neighborhoods and our communities, from housing to making sure that our mothers and our fathers and our grandparents can afford medicine, and making sure that we are dealing with prices that are too high and rents that are too high, and are committed to making sure that we maintain the Affordable Care Act, so everybody's got help here, and cares about things like education and entrepreneurship in our neighborhoods. And that's on one side. And on the other side, you have someone who has consistently shown disregard, not just for the communities, but for you as a person. And you're thinking about sitting out? But, Cousin Pookie might be.
Damn, Cousin Pookie might be. Yo.
What did he say? Cousin Putin?
Cousin Pookie.
Might sit out?
Yeah. So he's basically saying, you're not, right? Because this dude came out and said, I'm not, right?
Yeah.
But he looked at him and said, yeah, but Cousin Pookie might be.
Right.
So it's like for every black man, he has a brother, cousin, an uncle who's like, I'm voting for Trump. Fuck that. You know what I mean? And that's who he's talking to. He's like, if you black, basically he's saying what Biden said. If you don't vote for her, you ain't black. You know what I mean? It's like, he's trying to really like put that race card into play, talking about, if you black, you need to vote for Kamala.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we just listened to a whole fucking interview with Kamala. And what the fuck is she saying to appeal to black people?
Right.
Nothing. You know, like why are we doing this fucking identity politics bullshit? You know what I mean? And that's really what got him elected was the identity politics. Oh, he's a first black president.
He's
Right?
doing it too. He's saying she lived your experiences.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. When none of that is true, none of
qualified.
that is true. Nothing that she went through relates to the black experience in America.
I
She,
mean, it relates more than to the white experience, that's for sure. She's definitely not a white person, so she
oh
doesn't
yeah, all
live
right,
the
yeah,
white
yeah, yeah,
experience.
yeah. All right, if you're looking at it like that, yeah. But a lot of people ain't white. You know,
Right.
most people ain't white.
Right. She's as black as a Dominican is black.
A Dominican is more black because the Dominican has. Well, yeah, all right, yeah, I guess.
Or a Puerto Rican, anyone, even if
All right.
you're, non. That's the thing in U.S. There's white and there's other, and
Yeah,
the
yeah,
other is black. They're
yeah, yeah,
considered black, even if they're white as me. They're
yeah,
considered black.
yeah,
Like Joel, he's as white as me, and but he's not white.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
That's
no,
what
no. But
but that doesn't translate outside of America, yo. I'm telling you,
yeah,
like,
well, yeah. I mean, that's an interesting point because the presence of Latin Americans
yeah.
definitely throws something. You know, in your part of the world, you don't have Latin Americans. You don't have
No,
South.
we do. But it's of course we do, but it's not they're not there's no black or white here. So it's
Wait,
like,
wait. So you have like
yeah, there's Chinese people born in France. There's lots of Spanish people born in France,
but Spanish South American,
yeah, from
Central American.
everywhere. Their parents or their grandparents came here, whatever, and they're
And
from here. They were born.
but all right, yeah, but that has to be way more rare than it is here, right? To run across
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
you know,
it's more rare. But they're not considered non-white. Like, it's not like that's the point, is that if you're Chinese, you're not considered a non-white person. I don't know. I let me not get into it because I don't really have the details. I only have my lived experience, but I think that in US, there's either white and then there's other, and all of the other kind of fall into the minority bucket, so to speak, which is kind of what he's explaining. He's like, the black experience is not the white experience, and
yeah,
she
but
lived the black experience.
that's not what these people are gathered there representing. These
But
people,
that's what he's saying.
black voters, they're not talking about you know Mexicans, Middle Easterns, Asians. They ain't talking about that. They're talking about black
No, but
Americans.
Obama is saying that she lived what they lived.
Yeah, and they're all like, no, she didn't.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But that's a
You know,
different story. It is a
yeah,
different experience.
yeah. No, I feel you.
Maybe whether or not she lived it, but my point is that she lived it more than I lived it. You see, her experience is
Yeah,
closer
yeah, but
in America.
that's a like an Anglo-centric perspective because from the Afrocentric perspective, it's a very unique um you know identity
Yeah,
that is
because it's a
unique to this
unique
country.
it's a
And
it's unique to the United States. Meaning,
yes,
like
yeah,
Jose, right? Our friend Jose.
yeah,
I mean, he looks Mexican, right? But
yeah,
like
right.
someone else, but his skin color is the same as my skin color. So he is treated as a minority.
No, it's not. He's like olive.
Okay, whatever. Joel.
He's also olive.
All right, well, whatever. The point is that they're considered black in America,
No, they're
and
not.
they've lived a different experience
They're
than
not
me.
considered black.
Come
They're
on,
con-
it's true. When people look at me versus them or you, I get treated differently. I'm white.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a
They're
different
non-white.
experience.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
They're non-white,
yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
And that's a type of experience, the non-white experience. And so
Right.
he's saying,
And within that non-white experience, the black experience.
right, which is a segment of the non-white.
Yeah, but there's not like a coalition. I mean, now they've tried that with like, people of color, right? They brought that back. Like they used to have colored people, right? But then that became something that was not okay to say. But now we say people of color, and so we're talking about anyone who's non-white. So it's like we're trying to coalesce all these brown people against the white people. Not against, I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but we're trying to distinguish non-white people from white people to make white people more of a minority. It's but meanwhile, not all non-white people fuck with each other. Like, Indian people don't fuck with black people. A lot of people don't fuck with black people. You know what I mean? Like,
my point is that non-white people have more of a shared experience in New York, at least. That's all I know. In New York, compared to white people. No?
No, I don't know if I 100% agree with that. I mean, okay. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, white people in this country are set apart, right? And black people in this country are set apart. And then you have all these other races that can kind of flow in between, and they have their own place in the pie, but it's not, based on the history here, the predominant, and then you have the poor Native Americans who just get forgotten about and left out of the conversation. Yeah. Until it's
it might.
Thanksgiving.
I think actually what we were saying before in one of the previous videos is that it may be less about race now than it was when we were growing up, and more about money, socioeconomics. Like that dictates more experience,
Yeah. No, there's, it's less about race.
Yeah.
For more people. Like there's more people that just, just out here living their lives, and it's not in the front of everyone's mind. But there's still a big segment of people where it is still in the front. Right. And unfortunately, I believe that it's amongst Black Americans, race is more in the forefront than anybody else. So I don't even think white people are consumed. I mean, and that this is a very New York perspective. I'm sure if I went to like a white area in Georgia, decided to just stroll down the block, or especially if someone with a darker complexion, it would be front and center in every white person's mind down there. So in New York, obviously it's not indicative of everywhere else. But anyway,
hold on, your mic went out and now you sound a million times worse. So you were right. I didn't hear it in the beginning.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, it went out and now you sound mad tinny.
Oh shit! All right. Did it just suddenly go out?
Yeah, as you were talking, I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh no, I'm gonna plug it in. See if I can get back on with it.
I'll cut this out. Don't worry. Yeah.
The mic's back on?
Yeah, it sounds a million times better.
Oh,
see? I should use I have the same mic as you, yo.
Yeah, use it, yo.
I should use it, yeah.
Yeah. But all
right, go ahead.
All right, I'm playing the video.
And you're coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses. I've got a problem with that. Because part of it makes me think, I'm speaking to men directly, part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president.
Damn, bro. So you just insulted Black men Now you're just insulting men in general. And it's like, bro, why can't someone just have their own fucking opinion that doesn't fall in line with this bullshit, this identity politic bullshit? Why do one, this woman has not put anything forward to appeal to black people aside from like code switching. So she's in Detroit. It's like, yeah, come on, y'all, doing the whole like brothers and sisters shit, like the Chitlin circuit shit. And then she's in fucking Pennsylvania. Yeah, well, like talking extra straight. It's like there's nothing, right? Aside from the transparency of her code switching, that is that indicates where she stands on this issue on
And
any.
what about for Trump?
Trump is he's always the same character.
Right.
So it's like what you're getting. It's like, if you're around different people and you become a different person versus you're just the same character. It's like it's so much easier to respect someone who's just always the same fucking person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a habit that I feel like a lot of racially ambiguous people will fall into, where it's like, since you have the latitude to kind of present differently, you do it. You know what I mean?
But we established that that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, but but authenticity is lacking when you do that on any level. When you wherever you are, that's who you are, right? Where in whatever room you step in, you're just the same cat, the same person. There's a level of authenticity that does not need to be explained. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It's
well,
like
what about your baby mama theory about Kamala?
Yeah, well, all right. I mean, that plays into this too, because he's trying to appeal to black men to vote for Kamala. But like I said before, it's like any black man
recognizes
any man who's dealt with a toxic baby mom,
yeah,
right? Who talks over him, spins facts, evades any accountability or any real deep conversation into their own contributions into the problems that lay before you, right? And who demonize you as a man, right? You recognize that playbook when you see it, right? So maybe that above all else is why black men in particular ain't fucking with Kamala.
Yeah, I think that's probably the realest assessment I've ever heard you give about her. Like, yeah, I mean, yes, there's probably behind the scenes forces, and that may be true, but I can't see that. I can see the toxic X.
Yeah, that cackle,
in her.
The eye rolls,
no, but everything you just perfectly explained.
Yeah.
Speaking over, evading the subject, turning it back on you, all of that stuff. That's the playbook. That's the playbook.
Yeah.
And it really has nothing to do with race. It's really, it's really toxic behavior, toxic female behavior. Because so
100%.
I definitely I agree with that 100%. And yeah, we didn't see it in her before this interview because she wasn't being given any hard questions.
Yeah.
But now that we see it, it's very apparent. And yeah, you have to have experienced that to know.
Yeah. and who's experienced it more?
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
true.
because unfortunately, like in the Black community, where you have more kids being raised by single moms,
Right.
and that means more fathers who have been alienated and ostracized from their paternal role in these kids' lives.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and then to be demonized as a deadbeat, oh, your daddy ain't shit, you know, and to try to appeal to your kids, right? Or appeal to the public as a whole, like, yo, I'm not in my kids' life not because I don't want to be, but because this woman pushed me to the side and you know, marginalized my role in this kid's life and put poison in this kid's ear for years about how I'm fucked up, how, you know, everything that I do is to hurt or is negative, and highlighting every single misstep and negative characteristic that I may have. And you
Yeah.
know, while never giving me credit for anything positive that I've ever done, right?
Yeah.
You see, not only do you see those characteristics, you see your baby mama in Kamala Harris, but you also see yourself in Donald Trump, who has been demonized, never given any fucking flowers for anything positive he's ever done. Every little negative characteristic that he has, every misstep, misjudgment, bad move that he's ever been has ever made has been projected to the world and spun to look even worse than it really is, right? We know what that feels like. We've been there. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? We've lived through that shit. And when you see it, right, it may take a while to catch on to what's going on, but when you see it and you see the whole, you know, mass media apparatus used, weaponized, and now the judicial system used, weaponized. Like, we know about weaponizing the judicial system. If you've been in family court, if you and you realize that there's no justice in family court, yo. There's no fair shakes to be had. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, you identify with that shit immediately, and it doesn't even have to be articulated in your mind. It doesn't have to be a conscious thing. You just there's a revulsion, like a instinctive revulsion that you have towards that mo, that prototypical entity that Kamala Harris represents.
Yeah.
She's like, you know, and like I said, she's America's toxic baby mama. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I
know what I
agree.
mean? Just, you know,
And that applies equally to the fathers like you and I who have persevered and stayed in our kids' lives,
yeah,
as
but get
opposed to the
demonized the
ones
whole way. Yeah,
you know, compared to the ones who just couldn't deal with it. They were like, I'm sorry, my kid,
yeah.
I can't do it. I can't do it, you know?
And you know
But
what's crazy?
the
Yeah, before,
toxicness applies you know, just the
right.
same.
But tell me not, before living through it, did you have a certain negative outlook on men who walked away from their kids?
Of course, I grew up without a dad.
Right. But I'll tell you, speaking for myself, right? You know, I there's a part of me that's like, I can see how it could get to that point where it's like you don't have any recourse, though. Like, now this is what's fucked up, is that for the fathers that really just dip out on their kids and, you know, could have been in their lives, you know, fuck them, right? For the moms that really like wanted their kid's father in their lives, but the dude was just absent. Yeah, like, you know, I feel for them. But for the ones that abuse the system, abuse appeal to the court of public opinion to try and get, you know, to drag this man's name in the mud, who alienate these men from their kids and talk nasty about them to their kids. Your daddy ain't shit. He don't do this. He don't do that. Without ever giving him no fucking respect or no dues for any of the fucking things that he's ever done for them, right? or just the fact that he fucking loves them to death, and is yo, these people fuck it up for everyone else who really like got a raw deal. You know what I mean? For the kids who had a father who wanted to be in their lives, or who maybe was in their lives, but they never really got to have that full relationship with their father because their mother was constantly putting negative narratives in their head about their father. So you always had this little like underlying kind of contempt or resentment for him, even though that shit was not based in anything. It was just like her hurt and her fucking scorn for him, displaced onto you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
These
let
are
me
the
let me be clear again though, is that there's no excuse for, even though you recognize the toxicity in that pushing away or whatever, there's no excuse for not being in your kid's life. Like, no matter how toxic the mother is, and no matter how much shit she talks, no matter how much she takes you to court, takes all your money, regardless, like, you brought the kid into the world and it's your responsibility to be in that kid's life.
right. I agree with that. Right. You're always, there's no excuse for making yourself unavailable to that kid. Right.
Right.
But if that kid don't want you because of what they've been taught by their mother about you, or so like I tell my kids, yo, I'm here. I'm always here when you want me, yo. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but
And I'm always here when you need me.
the
You know
kids
what I mean?
grow
But
out of that don't wanting stuff, because if they're brainwashed by the toxic mother as a
yeah,
young kid, when they grow up, I don't know, not all of them, but they'll
not all of
probably,
them.
if the father stays trying and shows, I am not this person that you're being told I am, then the kid will probably give that father a chance, because
There's no guarantee.
there's no
Yeah, no,
guarantee.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. I mean, yeah, like like we're both examples of people that
Yeah,
have been through it and we stuck it out and we fought in court for
yeah.
to have time
At
and
least,
access to our kids.
at,
But at the same
at,
time,
yeah. Go ahead,
no.
finish it.
At the same time, I may not I may not see myself doing that, but there is I'm not as hard on men that I don't know, and I now know how fucked up it can get. So it's like I don't judge a man who has kids in a different state that they've haven't seen in 4 years and haven't talked to in three.
Yeah,
I
see,
don't know. I don't know the story. But I know how fucked up it could be. You know what I mean?
yeah, see, we differ in that sense, and I think it's because your father stayed in your life, whereas mine didn't. No matter how much the mother pushed
Yeah.
the father out, right?
No, no, no. Facts. 100%.
And
Yeah.
so I think that, at least when I was facing a possible kidnapping of my first son, right?
Yeah.
I was going through it, and I was like, and I was asking for help from wherever I could find it. And one of the people who was talking to me was saying, okay, even if this does happen, God forbid, the kid will grow up, and if you stay in that kid's life, the kid will have a cell phone. You'll be able to
But I
get the
don't understand.
service.
Wait. If he was being kidnapped, how would you stay in his life?
Well, in my situation, it was not kidnapped, like you'll never talk to him again. It was taking him to a state without my permission to live, a different country, right? And
Right.
so
So the kid is, let's say, 2 or 3 years old, right?
no, let me just be honest. It was Zia Jr., and
Yeah.
she was gonna take him to live in Chicago
How old was
without
he?
my permission. He was 10 or so. And
Okay.
so she was claiming,
All
oh,
right.
this is for
But
his
Zoo,
benefit, you know.
but Zoo,
But but
I feel you.
he would stay on the phone with me, just not in the same country,
A 10-year-old can pick up a phone and dial your
Right,
number, right?
exactly. That's my
A
point.
3-year-olds
Right.
can't.
But the
And
3-year-old grows into a 10-year-old. So if the father stays
but
trying,
bro, let me explain something to you.
you can't always stay trying, because if you're really gone and you have no access to the
Yeah,
phone number. That's different.
So let's say the mother changes her number
Yeah,
and
that's
you
different.
can't contact her. Let's
Yeah.
say you know her number, but she just ain't gonna answer your phone
Right.
call.
That's
Or
different.
let's say the kid is not talking, right? Is 2
Right.
and knows nothing but daddy bad, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you call and she puts the kid on the phone, but she got cartoons playing in the background and people talking to the kid while you're trying to talk to the kid, and the kid is distracted. You know, how many times can you call to try and connect with that kid? And if the interference is being played
Yeah.
at a young age, where are you going with that, bro? By the
Yeah.
time that kid is 10, what do you got? What connection do you have to that kid?
Yeah.
Then
That's
there's a stepfather in the picture, and that dude, oh no, that dude doesn't want you talking to the kid. But
Yeah.
whatever the case may be, it gets dicey as fuck.
Yeah, yeah. That's
And by the time that kid is 10, it's like, yo, where's my dad?
Yeah.
Oh, he don't give a fuck about you. Does he ever call you? No, he doesn't call you. Yeah, well, when he was 3 and 4, he would try to call once every couple days, once a day. And every time he would call, he would get
Yeah.
voicemail, or he would get you on the phone, and there would be background noise, or there would be, or you would say, I miss you. Oh, you don't miss him.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there's all kinds of toxic scenarios that go
Yeah, yeah.
down.
No,
And
for sure.
I've lived through that shit, and it's like a spectrum. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like I look at my baby mom's like the weather. Some days it's cloudy and she wants to be evil, right? And she wants to like run interference on me talking to my kids. Other days it's sunny. The one thing that I have, right, in my favor is proximity, right? And the fact that we have 3 kids together, 2 that are relatively young, right? 6 and 8, about to be 7 and 8. And then we have one that's 18. The 18-year-old, right? Now, my relationship with my 18-year-old is interesting, right? We don't talk on the regular. When we do talk, we can talk like we ain't miss a beat almost. But we just don't address any of these issues really. Like we just kick it, right? And and we both are kind of acutely aware that we've missed out on a whole lot, right? And I can't even blame my baby moms for that completely. Um, Kind of just because I can't put my finger on it exactly what the fuck went south, right? But it's also just maybe the age, and the we've gotten closer now that she's like getting out of her teenage years, right? So from like 14, 15 to 18, it's just been dicey, right? That also coincides with the amount of time that we've been split up, right? So in the beginning, it was, like it was survival for her. She had to pick a side. And if she showed any loyalty to her father or any interest in being involved with her father, indirectly that would affect her relationship with her mother, because her mother would take it out on her in very like underhanded ways. You know what I mean? So she is a smart kid and realized like, yo, I live with my mom's primarily. If I get too in the weeds with my dad, and you know, it's gonna make my mother uncomfortable, and I'm not gonna, you know, it's gonna be rough with my mother, and
Yeah.
so it's easy for it. But when my oldest was 2, me and her mother split up for the first time, and when she was 2, we lived together. She took her out of my place. I can't believe I got back with this woman after all this and had 2 more kids. But she took, my daughter out of my place, moved in with her mother. And for the better part of a year, at least 6 months, I had no contact with my kid. Right.
Mm.
It was only after I went to court, right? She refused to let me see her on any level, talk to her, see her, anything. And the few conversations I did have were just like I described. Background noise. They were in transit from one place to the other. It was just like the worst time to try and talk. I would call, get no answer. And when you chose to pick up the phone was when it was just impossible to have a real conversation with the kid, right? With a 2-year-old, you know what I mean? Like you need captive audience to talk to a 2-year-old over a phone. No FaceTime at that point, none of that, you know? And it took me going to court for custody. And obviously, in turn, the rebuttal to me serving papers to go to court for custody, for joint custody, for visitation, was all right. You go into court for child support. So I get served back papers for child support, right? And putting myself through that whole process just to be able to see my daughter, right? And then when I finally do get to see her, all the allegations and this woman attacked me with a fucking Cucci
Frying
Frito. Yeah, you know the story.
Yeah.
And then that turns out into her posting pictures on Facebook of her face all fucked up. I don't know how it got fucked up like that. And I confronted her and asked her about that shit. And she still hasn't really fessed up to it, but has fessed up to like, yeah, you didn't do nothing to me, right? You've never put your hands on me, and as long as I've known you, right? But somehow she got an order of protection against me for abusing her, right? Right? Based on an incident where she attacked me. And I never put my hands on her. You know what I mean? Like this is how fucked up it gets. It gets crazy. You know what I mean? So, and it's mind-boggling. Like I thank God that I have my 2 young ones, But goddamn, like to get back with somebody that has exposed themselves and their nature like that, it's crazy.
I don't know if I told you this, but I had a similar situation with my ex, where she would block me. Like we would have conversations would turn into arguments, and I would want to leave, physically leave the house to get out of the argument because it never was resolved, and she would physically block me from leaving, right? So this one time I was trying to leave the house and she would physically block me, and I finally got the door opened the door and closed the door behind me, and she stuck her finger in the door on purpose.
Yeah, you told me this. Yeah.
I told you that. And then went and filled a police report, and to this day the narrative is he's abusive. Like really?
Yeah.
Anyway, the whole point is that we, regardless of the father's nuanced experiences, they recognize the toxicity of what you said, and I think it bears repeating that.
I think
that's going to be the title of one of these videos: is Kamala US's toxic baby mama, because it's so true. That's the realest shit you've ever said. Like not ever, but now,
but it rings true, right? It's like
it so does. It so does.
And especially when you talk about a community of men that have been so abused by the family court system and a group, I mean, I hate to say this about Black women, but a group of women, they're not the only ones, right? But who have exploited this family court system to weaponize against Black men in such a way. And the slander and the character assassination that they've experienced puts them in a unique position to not fall for this bullshit. You know what I mean? When it's used in a political forum, you know what I mean? So when you see it, you recognize it immediately. And that's why a lot of Black men ain't fucking with Kamala Harris. I mean, you have a lot of plantation bros, not to be offensive with that term, but in the sense of like you still buying into the system and the narrative, and you still but you like the happy wife, happy life type character, like meanwhile you're fucking henpecked, and your wife got you by the balls. I mean, you voted for Kamala, because but for these fucking dudes who been through the ringer, come out the other side, and seen the shit for what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We ain't fucking with that shit.
Yeah.
We ain't. We would rather fuck with Trump, because he is, you know, and also, if there's ever going to be any kind of reform for, the family courts, any of this shit, you think it's going to come from Kamala? I mean,
Right.
that's like imagine a system where, where one, we recognize that, like, raising a kid costs a certain amount of money, but it's not going to cost that much money, right? So if you make like look at Tyrese Gibson, right, who coming off of like a bunch of like uh what is it, Fast and Furious
Yeah.
movies, making crazy bank, that those movies end, the checks kind of wane off, but his baby mom's times it so perfectly where she sees like you at a high point at your earning, and you're up in age, and your acting career is probably going to wind down. I'm gonna hit you now. I'm gonna get you at your high point. So this dude's paying like 50 G's or 25 G's, some crazy amount per month. You know what I mean? For one 2-year-old. What 2-year-old costs that much to take care of?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right? You know, and there's numerous situations like this, right, that go down, and this affects black men, white men, all men, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and then you have the normal dude, right, who is struggling to make ends meet on his own, wants to be in his kid's life, wants to take his kid as much as possible, but then gets hit, right, with an amount that makes it so that he has to work way more than he would. So he's not there to be with this kid as much as he wants to be. And then when he is with his kid, he's financially strapped. So he can't really do with his kid what he wants to do or what he could otherwise do. Right. Meanwhile, and there's for every tier of income, right, of there is a different, just a level of exploitation, and basically, dudes getting raped out here, by this system.
And you're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that. And I think anybody you are talking to in a barbershop, anybody you are talking to in your house, in your family, at church, who is coming with that kind of attitude, I think you have to ask them, well, how can that be? Because the women in our lives have been getting our backs this entire time.
Yeah, and whoever you've been talking to in the barbershop, in your family, who's telling you this shit, you got to ask them. And you also got to turn them into the thought police, because I'm spitting some Orwellian shit right here. Like, I'm trying to control your opinions and your thoughts. And it's like he's trying to put fear of, like, ostracization into people's hearts. Like, if you vote for Trump, you ain't gonna, yo. And you know how many people support Trump that just will never say that shit publicly?
Yeah. Most of
You know
them.
what I mean? A lot. Yeah, a lot. That's why this dude is still got, he got publicly 50% of the vote, like in the polls, right? But how many people like me? You think I'm at work talking about I'm voting for Trump?
Yeah.
What? Hell no. I work for the board of ed, You know how many fucking snowflake ass, fucking woke ass people I work with? We're picked today for this, and you know how many people that I work with put black on their fucking Facebook profile for Black Lives Matter, who to this day still have Black Lives Matter up in their classroom. I mean, like that whole, it's like, I get it, Yeah, Black Lives Matter, but we all matter, You know, like yeah, like you know, police brutality is an issue we need to deal with, but it's not the most. You know, it's like, yo, I can't speak openly in the world I live in New York City about my political beliefs and you know, and I can't question the narrative that these people live by. I can't do it. You
Yeah,
know?
look what happened to Kanye when he
Yeah,
said,
yeah. He also had a mental breakdown,
but
but yeah,
that's what I'm saying. People associate that with supporting Trump,
yeah, not true.
or at least publicly, you know.
Yeah, it's a interesting fucking dynamic we got going on.
They've been raising us and working and having our backs. And
Yeah, but what we've been talking about, have they been having our backs? You know, you know, it's like it's kind of like a like what have you done for me lately type thing. And the minute you know you hit some hard times, yo, you're irrelevant, yo. You know what I mean? You're
I don't know.
thrown to the
I
wolves.
don't think that's every. I mean, I don't know the percentage, of course, but I don't think what we're talking about speaks to everyone. I mean, I think there are definitely a
Nah,
lot. There are probably a
look,
lot of good women out there who do have backs, whether they're black or white or yellow.
bro, let me explain something. 50% or more than 50% of marriages end in divorce,
Fail, yeah.
right? Of those 50% that don't end in divorce, you got henpecked dudes that's just like, yo, happy life, happy wife, happy life, you know, go along to get along, you know, living, you know, quiet, you know, lives of quiet desperation, sexless marriages, ain't getting no pussy from their wives. You know what I mean? Just struggling, unhappy, you know, disrespected, you know, and of the 50% that do get divorced, something like 70-80% of those divorces are initiated by the women, right?
Mm,
You feel me?
yeah.
So those statistics alone speak to the the different roles that men and women play in this dynamic that we're talking about. You know,
Yeah.
it's just not it's not something that is really up for debate at this point. It's just like, yo, if you're talking about single parent households, those kids are being raised by and large by a single mother because of the choice that that mother made, right? And more times than not, it's not because the father was abusive or because he, you know, did something egregious. It's just that like, yo, she wasn't happy. And she was going out for herself and was not putting her kid first and the consideration of like, yo, my kid needs a father who's a stable part of their
Yeah.
life.
But there's a difference though between the woman not supporting the man and a woman supporting the child. You see what I mean? I think what Obama is saying is not necessarily about marriage as much as a single mom supporting her child, you know,
No,
regardless of the man.
no, he's talking about women
Oh,
in general.
right, because he's speaking to black men.
Yeah,
No,
he's
but I
talking
mean
about
black men
women.
have
He's talking about
mothers
your
too.
mama. He's talking about your sister. He's
Yeah,
talking about your wife. He's talking about, you know,
yeah.
the mother of your kid. You know, he's talking about your auntie. He's talking about any woman in your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, and fucked up to say, but like, if you like, I was raised basically by a single mother. You know what I mean? My father was there, more so in my teen years than in my early years, but he was definitely there. And you know, but you realize that, you know, your mother, as much as she advocated for you, made moves that were against your best interest when she alienated your father, right? And now this is not for everybody, but this is for a lot of people, because it's not always as dramatic as like the pops just like went out for, you know, a pack of cigarettes and never came back. You know what I mean? Um, you know, and your auntie might have your back, but your cousin grew up in the single parent household too, because your uncle got, you know, you know, pushed aside. You know what I mean? Your sister, you see her do it. You know what I mean? Your grandmother, you saw her do it. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, maybe you were in the good graces of a woman here and there, but there was another man somewhere else that wasn't. You know what I mean? And not for any fault of his own. You know what I mean? Just like because, you know, a woman has that prerogative, like, yo, you know, I could do better somewhere else, or I think I could do better somewhere else. So I'm gonna, you know, and then, you know, to speak to, you know, how many of us think a specific dude is our pops, but he ain't even our pops. There was some other dude. You know what I mean? Like, it's deep, yo. You know what I mean? And you know, like the old phrase, right? Like, you know, mama's baby, daddy's baby, right? It's like, you know, this is like, you know, I mean, that phrase is deep because like a lot of the gender dynamics in society stem from that. The reason why men make guard, the reason why Muslim men make their women cover their face is because, you know, if I'm going to invest resources into you and our child, right?
Yeah.
I need to know that that's my progeny and not some other man's, right?
Yeah.
Right? I need to be certain. There's no way, especially back in the day before DNA testing, which for whatever reason most men don't avail themselves of. You know what I mean? Um, you know, there was no way for a man to know. So he's investing his life's efforts into raising and providing for a child that may or may not be his. You know what I mean? In the animal kingdom, most male animals will cull the offspring of another man, right? You know, because you don't want to put your resources into raising and nurturing another man's DNA, right? Like, this is biology, this is nature, this is like as primal as it gets, right? And we're in a space now where there's no recourse, bro. You sign that paper when a baby is born and it comes out that's not your baby, she takes you to court, you still paying child support, yeah. You know? You feel me, right?
Yeah.
This is injustice, yeah. This is not right. You know what I mean? And this is like what black men ain't fucking with, yeah. What men ain't fucking with. We ain't fucking with that. You know what I mean? Like, in our hearts, we ain't fucking with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But all right, pressing play.
When we get in trouble and the system's not working for us, they're the ones who are out there marching and protesting. And so now you're thinking about sitting out or even supporting somebody who has a history of denigrating you. Because you think that's a sign of strength? Because that's what being a man is? Putting women down? That's not acceptable. That's not, this shouldn't even be a question.